The film that first got Brian De Palma noticed couldn't have been more New Hollywood in its subject matter. Greetings was a comedy about dodging the draft of the Vietnam War.
Don't make a sound. Keep the camera on.
It had no traditional narrative, and was instead a series of episodes that reflected the socio-political climate. De Palma would later mould these counterculture instincts into more conventional formats like the thriller, but it seemed that even for this new generation of filmmakers and cinema-goers, he was too subversively irreverent. It wasn't until Carrie in 1976 that he managed to reach this new mainstream audience and had his first smash hit. This video is sponsored by Mubi. Get 1 month free at mubi.com/thediscardedimage. Like other filmmakers of his generation, De Palma was heavily influenced by world cinema. Whether it's the surrealist Luis Buñuel, with his satirical, blasphemous sense of humour,
Accepted, Mama! I accepted!
Into your closet.
No.
or Michelangelo Antonioni, who challenged the power of the moving image to honestly capture reality. And its most pronounced influence is Jean-Luc Godard, with his self-conscious attitude and implicit commentary on the genres he was working in. This approach can be seen in how De Palma reworked the techniques of Alfred Hitchcock, who he emulated in his films prior to Carrie. By that time, the techniques of the master of suspense felt a little dated, so it was impossible to reuse them entirely with a straight face. This was perfect for De Palma, the winking satirist who could shock you and make you laugh, often in the same moment. Out of all these wildly different sources of inspiration, he found his unique tone. Self-aware and biting, yet somehow sincerely operatic. Carrie was where these impulses coalesced most seamlessly and effectively. Take the opening scene, which sensually moves through a locker room full of underage girls. It's the ultimate bad boy voyeurism, and it ends with a sultry shower scene, which of course brings to mind Hitchcock's Psycho. Rather than simply a woman in the nude, here we close in on a girl having her first period, which isn't exactly sexy, and for women is an everyday, painful experience. Like Hitchcock, De Palma puts us in the woman's shoes, but he also shifts from a male gaze to a female subjectivity, and makes Carrie's first period as shocking to her as being stabbed by a maniac. Using horror conventions in a self-aware fashion, De Palma gets at something that's routine and more grounded in reality than classic horror films. This echoes the realistic approach that new Hollywood directors often adopted to update genre and make it resonate with a younger audience.
Fucking bastard!
Opening the film with Carrie's first menstruation hints not so subtly at De Palma's more modern take on sexuality as well. New Hollywood directors commented on the sexual revolution they experienced, and De Palma does so within the horror and coming-of-age genres. The mother, representing the older generation, is sexually repressed to the point of absurdity.
First sin was intercourse.
And he was weak. Say no, Mama! He was weak.
While the teenagers only have that thing on their mind. If we were to take the film literally, Mrs. White was right. Sex is evil. The horrible scheme is set up by Chris, who uses sex as a weapon to get her boyfriend to do her bidding. And she clearly gets the sexual gratification out of doing this. The menstrual blood that signalled Carrie's own blossoming sexuality should have been a warning of the horror to come. Yet her violent reaction is due to years of systematic repression by a mother who can only seemingly orgasm when she's crucified and about to meet her maker. This outrageously obvious symbolism allows De Palma to give his sexually emancipated audience a film that is both an amusing and a horrifying takedown of Puritanism. De Palma is a director who seems to be constantly torn between two simultaneous impulses. This is why he so frequently uses techniques like split screen or split diopter.
It's beautiful.
While Carrie is sincerely touched by Tommy's poem, which he didn't write, we see him mocking the whole scenario. De Palma makes earnestness and irony coexist because he himself is on both those levels. He's Carrie and Tommy. His approach is similar when he's juxtaposing scenes, like this exercised attention with its zany music, poking fun at teenagers and their emotional intensity.
You can't get away with this.
Which he contrasts with the more straightforward suspense of Carrie learning about her supernatural powers. Or Piper Laurie's turn as Carrie's mother. Her behaviour is clearly traumatising her daughter, but it's also an extreme and extremely funny parody of religious fanaticism.
To the blood come the boys, like sniffing dogs, grinning and slobbering and trying to find out where that smell comes from.
It's not a coincidence that the actress approached her role from a comedic perspective, while Sissy Spacek's performance is raw and sincere.
I'm going, Mama. Things are gonna change around here.
Even as De Palma's new wave impulses push him to deconstruct his film, he has also learned by that point that he needs to maintain a level of convention for the audience to genuinely connect to it. He allows us to build identification and sympathy with Carrie, even though he makes it clear early on that her story will end horrifically.
Watch it, you stupid shit. You're getting blood all over the place.
The audience can sense it's being emotionally manipulated, but still empathizes all the same.
It's nice.
Just nice.
No. It's like being on Mars.
You'll never forget it.
I don't think I will.
De Palma was always operating on this multi-layered level, but Carrie gives him the perfect scenario to excel at it. The prom sequence is at once a truly emotional moment for Carrie and for us, and completely fabricated. Nothing about Carrie's Cinderella story is real. It's all been set up by people with either good or bad intentions, in order for Carrie to have this incredible experience. This echoes one of De Palma's favourite films, Hitchcock's Vertigo, where a show is being put on for the lead protagonist. But unlike that film, here both the characters and the audience are aware of this artificiality, which is more reminiscent of Godard's cinema. But De Palma goes further than both of his heroes and draws out this sequence to the point of absurdity, focusing on both its mechanics and its emotional weight obsessively. He even uses the Hitchcockian revolving shot, typically used to express romantic reverie, and pushes it to extremes, with the camera frenziedly swirling around to draw attention to itself. It's a joke, a fabrication, just like the scenario itself. Pino Donaggio's score plays with these two opposing forces of self-awareness and sincerity. The emotional hooks, tied to the excruciating slow motion, extend the moment for as long as humanly possible, whilst the more suspenseful cues emphasize the horrific punchline coming into place. And when the suspense comes to its end, the climax is both figurative for the audience and literal for Chris. She has her orgasm, and we get our own release from the tension. Through this study in contrast, De Palma both takes these teenagers and their need for acceptance and sexual gratification seriously, and pokes fun at the superficiality of their universe and of society at large. In true New Hollywood fashion, he works within a genre and a culture, but plays with its codes to better attack it from within. At once moving and outrageous, it's thanks to this double-edged quality that Carrie has become a cult classic beyond its era. In the late 1960s, Brian De Palma was enamoured by the French New Wave. He said he wanted to be the American Jean-Luc Godard, and was particularly interested in the way the director dealt with the political climate of that era. And no film expressed that more vividly than Godard's Le Chien Noir, which is currently showing on Mubi in the US. It looks at a group of French student revolutionaries and was a prescient document that predated the infamous student protests that would take place throughout Paris in May 1968. And here in the UK, Mubi are showing L'Avventura, a formerly audacious portrayal of wealthy Italians trying to escape the anxiety of living in the modern world. It's arguably the greatest film from another of De Palma's favourite filmmakers of the 60s, Michelangelo Antonioni. Every day, Mubi premieres a new film, from timeless classics to cult favourites and acclaimed masterpieces. It's like your own personal film festival. You can try Mubi free for 30 days at mubi.com/thediscardedimage and get a whole month of great cinema for free.